Before we begin, here is a quick reminder to our audience. If you find yourself inspired by this journey, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring the world together. Every click of yours is like a wave, carrying these stories farther, letting more hearts feel the beauty of nature and culture across the globe. And now, let us step into the first chapter of an unforgettable journey, Ha Long Bay, Vietnam. At first sight, Ha Long appears not as a place, but as a vision, an immense canvas painted by both time and myth. Imagine towering limestone pillars, their jagged peaks piercing through a veil of morning mist, scattered across the emerald waters like the remnants of an ancient, forgotten kingdom. To gaze upon this bay is to step into a dream that refuses to fade. A dream both tender and formidable. The silence here is not emptiness, but fullness. The hush of eternity whispering through waves and cliffs. More than 1,000 islands are scattered across the bay, each rising from the depths like a stone giant frozen mid-motion. Some bend and curve like mythical beasts. Others stand sharp and solitary. And together they form an otherworldly labyrinth. Ha Long is not merely scenery, it is a living myth. Legends say dragons descended from the heavens, scattering jewels into the sea. And those jewels hardened into the limestone islands you see today. Whether one believes the tale or not, it is hard to deny that these rocks seem too poetic to be born of chance alone. They bear the grandeur of legends, echoing a truth larger than history itself. Light spills across the waters as the sun begins to climb, gilding the cliffs with golden hues. In those moments, you might feel as if you are standing at the edge of time, watching day itself being born. The sea is alive with constant yet gentle rhythms, ripples dancing outward like threads woven by unseen hands. And if you let yourself be still, if you allow your eyes to linger, you may feel an invisible thread pulling you deeper, as if the bay itself is inviting you into its ancient embrace. But Ha Long is not only about silent mountains and shimmering seas. It is a mirror to the soul. Standing at the edge of the deck, breathing in the salt-kissed air, you might begin to wonder, how small are we, really, against this immensity? And yet, isn't there a strange comfort in that smallness? For here, nature does not belittle you, it uplifts you, reminding you that you are a part of something infinite that does not end with your own breath or footsteps. The caves hidden within these islands are another secret, another layer of the story. Step into Sung Sot Cave, for example, and you are stepping into the heart of the earth itself. Stalactites hang like frozen chandeliers. Stalagmites rise like sculpted guardians. And every chamber glows under carefully placed lights, revealing shapes that ignite the imagination. Dragons, elephants, flowers, even whole armies carved in stone. It is as if the cave has been recording centuries in silence, leaving these formations as cryptic poetry behind. When you stand there, surrounded by echoes and shadows, you cannot help but feel that time itself is breathing around you. The water villages of Ha Long are just as much a wonder as the islands. Small houses float on wooden rafts, tethered together by ropes and nets, swaying gently with the tide. Children dive fearlessly into the water, their laughter ringing clear, while fishermen mend their nets with practiced hands that carry generations of memory. These villages are not simply communities, they live in dialogue between humanity and the sea. Here, daily life is inseparable from the tides, each sunrise and sunset marking another chapter in an ongoing love story between people and nature. And if you step into one of those boats and listen to their voices, you will feel not just curiosity but belonging. Ha Long is a land of dualities. By day, the bay glimmers with life, tourist boats weaving paths across the jade waters, kayaks slipping into hidden coves, the cries of seabirds punctuating the air. By night, silence returns like a gentle veil. Only the sound of water lapping against hulls remains, while stars scatter themselves generously across the sky. In those hours, the bay feels like an infinite cathedral, where silence becomes the highest form of prayer. If you were to lie back and gaze upward, you might wonder whether the islands below are reflections of the stars above, or if, perhaps, the universe has folded in on itself here, creating a harmony between heaven and earth. Local culture enriches the natural beauty with layers of meaning. The city of Ha Long hums with markets brimming with seafood freshly lifted from the sea, crabs, shrimp, squid, and fish glistening under early morning light, the smell of salt and spice, the calls of vendors, the rustling of nets, all merge into a symphony of livelihood. The food here is not just nourishment, it is the sea translated into flavor. Bite into a piece of grilled squid or savor a steaming bowl of clam soup, and you taste not only the ingredients but also the tides, the winds, the very breath of the ocean. Ha Long is not just to be seen, it is to be felt, absorbed, and remembered long after the eyes have closed. It does not impose itself with noise or grandeur, but with depth and persistence. Like a gentle tide, it works its way into your spirit until you realize that a part of the bay lingers within you even after leaving. It reshapes the way you look at water, stone, and silence. So as the day comes to a close in this first chapter of our journey, ask yourself, what did you see in Ha Long? Was it merely cliffs and water? Or was it something more, a mirror, a myth, a sanctuary? For in truth, Ha Long is all of these, and more. It is not just a destination but a dialogue between you and the eternal. The journey deepens as the morning light softens, slipping into golden tones that wash across the endless surface of Ha Long Bay. The limestone towers now glow warmly, their shadows stretching long across the emerald water. What was once mysterious in the mist has now become majestic in clarity. The bay seems to shift with each passing hour, never offering the same face twice. For those who truly pay attention, this is not just scenery, it is a living, breathing symphony of light, stone, and sea. Gliding through the waters, the boat finds passage into narrower channels, where the cliffs rise higher, as though closing in to guard some secret within. These natural corridors draw the eye upward, forcing you to measure your height against stone giants shaped by millions of years. Cracks and crevices are filled with bursts of green vegetation, proof that even the harshest stone will cradle life if given time. And in this contrast, stone and leaf, permanence and fragility, you sense the wisdom of nature. Endurance does not mean silence, but the capacity to nurture even in the face of challenge. Here, hidden beaches reveal themselves, small crescents of sand tucked between rocky outcrops, places untouched by the ordinary rush of tourists. The sand, pale as ivory, carries the sun's warmth, and the sea arrives in gentle whispers, laying itself at your feet. These secluded shores invite a kind of intimacy, an invitation to rest, to be still, to hear the pulse of the earth beneath your body. To walk barefoot along such a beach is to feel more than texture, it is to step into a rhythm older than humanity itself. Ha Long's legends echo more strongly in these quiet places. Every island, it seems, has a story. Some resemble animals, roosters, dogs, elephants. Others take shapes that spark the imagination. Locals weave tales that breathe life into stone, reminding us that these formations are not mere accidents of geology but symbols in a cultural tapestry. You might gaze upon two cliffs leaning toward each other and hear the story of lovers turned to stone, their embrace eternal against time's erosion. In this way, Ha Long is not only a geographic wonder but also a mythological library. Its books, written in rock and water, the floating villages, seen from afar as dots scattered across the bay, become worlds of their own when approached. Wooden houses painted in bright blues and reds rest on rafts, rising and falling gently with the tide. Small boats glide between them like streets of a waterborne city. Nets are hung to dry. Baskets of freshly caught fish gleam in the sunlight, and children's voices ring out, a chorus that carries across the water. To witness life here is to see resilience shaped into beauty. These people do not merely survive in the embrace of the bay, they thrive, crafting a life that balances necessity with harmony. For you, the visitor, the sight is humbling, a reminder that simplicity is not weakness, but a different kind of strength. As the day grows warmer, activities awaken. Kayaks slip into hidden grottos, paddles dipping silently into clear water. Tourists pause to touch the limestone walls, to peer into the cool darkness of narrow caves where bats hang like guardians of shadow. Others dive into the sea, their laughter mingling with the splash of waves, creating new layers of sound to accompany the eternal music of wind and water. In Ha Long, every human or natural movement feels like part of a larger choreography, an unending performance of existence itself. Yet, there is also the town, where modern life and tradition intertwine. Ha Long City bustles with markets, Motorbikes weaving through streets, and stalls brimming with the colors and smells of daily trade. Step into the market, and you will be embraced by the richness of local life, the sharp aroma of dried squid, the gleam of fresh shellfish, and the cries of vendors offering their catch of the day. Food here is more than sustenance, it is storytelling. A grilled squid cake, tender and smoky, carries the memory of early morning fishing trips in its flavor. A bowl of noodle soup, enriched with clams or prawns, whispers of the sea's generosity. Each bite is a dialogue, not between chef and diner, but between ocean and humanity. By afternoon, the heat softens, and shadows stretch across the water again. This is when Ha Long reveals its quieter face, when the tempo slows and reflection feels natural. Suppose you are fortunate enough to climb Bai Tho Mountain. The city and bay spread beneath you like an unfurled scroll. From that height, you can see the whole geometry of islands and waterways, and perhaps understand why poets of old carved verses into stone here. Writing poetry in Ha Long is not an act of invention, it is simply an act of listening. For poetry already exists in the rhythm of the waves and the shapes of the cliffs. Then comes dusk, a transformation more powerful than words can hold. The sky burns in streaks of orange and crimson. The water turns to molten gold, and every cliff becomes a silhouette of grandeur. Boats move slowly across this vast canvas, their lights beginning to glow like scattered stars. The transition is not abrupt but tender, as though the bay itself wishes to ease the world into night. Watching a Ha Long sunset is not merely to see beauty, it is to feel closure and understand that endings can be as radiant as beginnings. And as night fully descends, silence returns once more. The waves still move, the stars still scatter their brilliance, but all feels softened, muted, as though the bay is exhaling after a long day. For those who remain awake, this is the moment of most extraordinary intimacy with the place. Sitting in the quiet, you realize that Ha Long does not seek applause or demand recognition. It simply is, enduring, magnificent, and eternal. And in acknowledging that, you too may find a quiet eternity within yourself. The third passage into Ha Long Bay's world begins not with the rising sun, but with the lingering calm of a fully awake day. The light is softer now, refracted across the water's surface in endless patterns. Every ripple seems like handwriting on the sea, an alphabet of nature, whispering to anyone willing to read with the heart instead of the eyes. And you, as you drift deeper into this labyrinth of stone and tide, are invited to listen to the silence behind the sound, the meaning beneath the beauty. It is in this stillness that the caves begin to speak most clearly. To enter them is to enter the earth's lungs, where each chamber holds its breath for centuries before letting it out in a soft echo. Stalactites dangle like the frozen tips of ancient rivers. Stalagmites rise like forgotten monuments, and the air is cool with reverence. Some caves open into vast halls resembling cathedrals, where light and shadow dance like priests and choirs. Others are intimate, narrow, forcing you to bow your head as if paying respect to something greater than yourself. And in these sacred spaces, you realize that geology is not just science, art, patience, and eternity crystallized in stone. Outside again, the bay greets you with its endless variations of blue, sometimes turquoise, sometimes jade, sometimes deep as sapphire. The water shifts with the mood of the sky above. Schools of fish dart below the surface, their silver scales catching the sunlight, like sparks flickering in the depths. Seabirds swoop gracefully, tracing invisible patterns, each dive and rise perfectly timed with the rhythm of the waves. Life here is choreography, a wild and deliberate dance where every participant knows their part without being taught. Then, unexpectedly, a floating village emerges. The closer you approach, the clearer it becomes that these are not simply homes but vessels of history. Anchored in water and time, wooden houses, weathered yet brightly painted, stand in quiet dignity. Laundry flutters in the breeze. Children balance expertly on narrow planks, and elders sit with nets, weaving tomorrow's meals with the same precision their ancestors once did. The entire village sways gently, as though the people themselves are cradled in the arms of the sea. For you, the visitor, it is a revelation that a life so different from yours can still feel strangely familiar. You recognize joy in their laughter, resilience in their gestures, and belonging in the way they meet the sea not as a stranger but as family. The day carries you toward Tuan Chau Island, where modernity brushes shoulders with tradition. Resorts line the shores, lights shimmer across marinas, and the hum of contemporary leisure contrasts with the quiet rhythm of the villages. Here, performances celebrate local folklore with music, dance, and fire, bringing the stories of dragons, lovers, and warriors to vivid life. The island feels like a bridge between worlds, the Ha Long of myth and nature, and the Ha Long of progress and modern travel. Perhaps this duality is not a contradiction but a testament that beauty does not fade when embraced by change, but adapts, like water taking the shape of every vessel it fills. By late afternoon, food becomes its own form of storytelling. Vendors grill squid skewers over open flames, their aroma curling through the salty air. Bowls of rice noodles topped with fresh crab meat are served with herbs that taste the earth's resilience. Sweet corn milk soothes the tongue after the spice of chili sauces. Every bite here is a note, and together they compose a song of land and sea, of tradition and creativity. Eating in Ha Long is participating in a dialogue whispered through generations, where the ocean gives, and humanity transforms its gifts into flavors that linger far beyond the meal itself. And as the sun begins to tilt toward the horizon, shadows lengthen, painting the bay in softer hues. It is in these hours that reflection comes most easily. You find yourself leaning against the boat's railing, eyes fixed on the horizon, wondering how much of this beauty belongs to you, and how much of you now belongs to it. In Ha Long, the line between visitor and participant blurs. You are no longer just someone observing, you are part of the scene, part of the memory being written into the waters. Evening arrives with a gentle grandeur. The Bai She Bridge stretches like a string of pearls across the water, its lights shimmering as if mirroring the stars yet to appear. Boats dock for the night, their lanterns glowing softly, while voices drift from the shore, music, laughter, conversations carried on the wind. The city and the bay enter into dialogue once more, one vibrant and buzzing, the other calm and eternal. Together they form an almost orchestral balance, every note complementing the other. Night eventually takes its full hold. The sky above scatters with constellations, while the bay below reflects them so perfectly it feels like you are floating in the center of the universe. Here, the human heart softens where water and sky blur into one. You may think less of what you came to see, and more of what you came to feel. Ha Long's true gift is not simply its grandeur but its capacity to open you, to invite you to breathe more deeply, think more slowly, and feel more fully. And so, as the third chapter of this journey draws to a close, Ha Long does not conclude, it only deepens. The bay is infinite in its offerings, endless in its moods. You leave one moment behind only to discover another waiting. And through it all, one truth remains. Ha Long is not just a destination to be visited. It is a presence to be encountered, a teacher to be heard, a companion to be remembered. Dawn returns once more, but now the rhythm of Ha Long feels different. The first time you see it, the bay overwhelms you with its grandeur. By the fourth, it reveals its subtler truths. The mountains of stone no longer stand as strangers but as old companions. The waves no longer sing an unfamiliar song but one you recognize, as though it were waiting within you all along. This is the stage where Ha Long's beauty shifts from spectacle to intimacy, from sight to understanding. The boat glides deeper into lesser-known corners, away from the bustle of tourist routes. Here, silence reigns, not the absence of sound, but the presence of calm. The water barely stirs, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting cliffs and skies so perfectly that it is difficult to tell where the earth ends and the heavens begin. Even the slightest disturbance, a falling leaf, a fish breaking the surface, feels monumental in this mirror-like world. And you, watching, cannot help but think that you too are being reflected, your inner landscape laid bare in the still water. In these hidden bays, you encounter beaches untouched, their sands unmarred by footprints. Min Chau is such a place, where the sand is fine as powder and the sea rolls in with a whisper rather than a roar. The pine trees lining the shore sway gently, their whispers blending with the hush of the tide. Here, the world slows. Sitting with your feet buried in that warm sand and listening without hurry is to rediscover a version of yourself unburdened by the demands of time. It is not escape, it is return. A remembering of the simplicity at the core of being. The history of Ha Long also emerges more vividly as you move deeper into its story. This bay is not just a marvel of nature, it has been a stage of resilience and defense. A witness to battles that shaped a nation. Nearby rivers once bristled with wooden stakes that rose from the depths to halt invading ships. Turning the tide of history. The people of Vietnam carry these memories in their festivals, stories, and songs. To stand on this water is to stand in beauty and courage. To feel the pulse of heritage flowing beneath the surface. On the shores, culture thrives in daily gestures. In markets, vendors arrange baskets of shrimp and crabs, their shells still glistening with the ocean's sheen. The chatter is lively, the smells rich with salt and spice, and the colors vivid, reds, oranges, silvers shimmering in the morning sun. These are not just commodities, they are threads in the fabric of life. Each one a piece of the ongoing dialogue between land, sea, and humanity. You may taste a crab steamed with lemongrass or sip a bowl of clam broth. And in that flavor, taste more than nourishment, you taste survival, creativity, and joy. As the day unfolds, your journey carries you to Tuan Chau again. But the island reveals itself in a new light this time. It is not just a hub of leisure but a stage where culture is celebrated and retold. Performances echo with drums and flutes. Dancers move like waves, and stories of dragons and heroes come alive in color and flame. The contrast with the serene bay is striking, yet fitting, for Ha Long has always been a place of balance, quiet and noise. Stillness and movement, myth and reality. Afternoon comes, and with it, the climb to Bai Tho Mountain. The ascent is steady, and with each step, the air grows lighter, the perspective broader. The bay spreads out below at the summit like a vast painting beyond imagination. Islands rise from the water like scattered brushstrokes. The city gleams in the distance, and the horizon stretches endlessly. Here, words carved into stone by poets of centuries past remind you that this place has inspired awe for generations. Their verses are not relics but living voices, echoing across time, affirming that what you see is more than scenery, it is truth. Distilled in nature. Then arrives the moment of dusk, when Ha Long turns into a theater of fire and shadow. The sun slowly lowers, painting the sky with orange, pink, and purple. The cliffs become silhouettes, dark giants outlined against a fading blaze. The water transforms into liquid gold, its ripples catching the last light, scattering it into 1,000 glimmers. Boats return to harbor, their lanterns lit, their silhouettes moving like verses across the glowing page of the sea. In this moment, you understand that beauty is not only what is given but also what fades. For endings hold their own radiance. Night descends with tenderness. The Bai She Bridge, strung with lights, spans the bay like a necklace of pearls. Reflections shimmer across the water, blurring the line between human creation and natural wonder. The city hums with life, while the bay reclines in silence, forming a timeless harmony. And if you linger awake under the night sky, you will see Ha Long at its most intimate. Stars scatter across the heavens, mirrored so perfectly in the bay below that you feel suspended between two infinities. In that fragile, profound balance, you realize that Ha Long is not a place you pass through but one that passes through you. It reshapes your perception, deepens your breath, and expands your silence. It becomes part of you, as inevitable and enduring as the tides. The morning after carries with it a maturity. By now, the rhythm of Ha Long no longer surprises, it embraces. The cliffs, water, and mist all seem less like a destination and more like a dialogue. The traveler who once arrived with wide-eyed wonder now listens with a quieter heart, attuned to this landscape's subtler notes. Ha Long, after all, is not a place that reveals itself all at once. It unfolds like a story told in chapters, each one deeper and closer to the essence of what beauty truly means. This chapter begins upon the water once more, but the boat cuts toward less trodden passages this time. The air is cooler, the sky brushed with the faintest silver of morning clouds. From afar, a cluster of islands appears to rise together like a gathering of ancient elders. These are not just rocks, they are witnesses, keeping counsel over centuries of storms, tides, and human lives. Their surfaces bear the lines of time, grooves, cracks, pockets where rainwater once fell, and in those scars, you see resilience rather than ruin. The caves here differ from those you saw before. Some are so small that you must crouch low to enter, your hand brushing against stone damp with condensation. Others open into sudden halls where sunlight spears through cracks above, turning dust into golden particles that hover like spirits. In these quiet interiors, echoes bounce and fold upon themselves, making every breath feel amplified, every whisper like a confession. For those who pause here, the caves become more than geological wonders, they are sanctuaries. Places where silence takes shape and teaches patience. Beyond the caves lies another secret of the bay, hidden lagoons that can only be entered through low, narrow arches in the rock. As the boat glides under these thresholds, the world changes. Inside, the lagoon is encircled by cliffs, a private universe sealed away. The water glows a deeper green, calm and undisturbed, broken only by the splash of a fish or the ripple of a bird taking flight. The outside world vanishes, and time itself feels suspended in this isolation. These lagoons are nature's heartbeat, slow and steady, reminding you that life's most profound truths are often found in places where the world's noise cannot follow. And yet, Ha Long is not only silence and solitude. Its shores pulse with culture, with stories woven into festivals that light up the calendar. One such celebration is the Carnival Ha Long, where the streets become rivers of color. Dancers in elaborate costumes move like waves. Musicians fill the air with rhythm, and fireworks scatter light across the night sky. The modern city and the ancient bay embrace one another in joy. To witness this is to understand that beauty is what nature provides and what humanity creates when it responds to that gift. Food continues to bind sea and shore together. A plate of steamed mantis shrimp, their delicate sweetness pulled straight from the water, becomes more than a meal, it is proof of abundance. A bowl of cha muck, the famed squid cakes, crackles with flavor, its texture springy, its taste both smoky and tender. Vendors along the waterfront offer clams roasted with chili, spice sharp but balanced by the sea's salt. These dishes are not inventions, they are inheritances, passed down through kitchens and fishing boats, each bite carrying the memory of generations. As the afternoon stretches across the bay, the floating villages again invite reflection. You see a fisherman returning with nets heavy from the sea. You know a child guiding a boat with oars larger than his arms, yet steady in every movement. You see women trading fish and vegetables, their laughter weaving like music. These moments blur the line between survival and grace, reminding you that life at its simplest can be its richest. For here, every gesture is a thread in the greater fabric of existence, woven not with excess but with necessity, skill, and love. Later, you still find yourself climbing again, this time not for the view of the bay but for the experience of descent. On T-Top Island, a steep path rises through the trees to a viewpoint where the panorama stretches endlessly. The ascent is tiring, but with each step, the horizon widens, until finally, from the summit, the bay unfurls like a scroll painted in jade and gold. And when you descend again, carrying that vision within you, the sea feels different beneath your feet, as though you now walk upon water and memory. Evening returns, and Ha Long transforms yet again. The light softens, the edges of the cliffs blur into the shadows, and the water takes on the deep blue of approaching night. Boats drift closer to shore, their lanterns glowing, their reflections doubling across the surface. The Bai She Bridge lights up again, a bright ribbon threading across the darkening sky. This is a time for wandering through the city's night markets, where the air fills with sizzling sounds and fragrant smoke. Souvenirs glint under electric bulbs, and conversations spill out like rivers. But eventually, even the city quiets, and the bay reclaims its stillness. Stars appear, scattered across the sky and mirrored in the water below, until you feel like you are floating in a universe without edges. In that stillness, your thoughts slow, your breath deepens, and a realization settles. Ha Long is not just a spectacle of nature, a heritage of culture, but a mirror of the human spirit itself. To witness its beauty is to remember your own. To breathe in its vastness is to awaken the vastness within you. And so the day closes. But the story does not. Ha Long remains, endless, waiting, eternal. You may leave its shores, but it does not leave you. Its cliffs will rise in your dreams. Its waters will echo in your silence. And its lessons will linger, carried not in photographs but in the texture of your very being. The final act of Ha Long's story does not begin with sunrise or sunset, but with the quiet pulse of continuity. By now, the cliffs no longer astonish with their sheer presence, they soothe. The water no longer demands attention with its brilliance, it comforts. Ha Long has become less a destination and more a state of being. A mirror in which the soul recognizes itself. You drift among the islands, their silhouettes familiar yet forever mysterious. The air carries the faint salt of the sea, the distant cry of a bird, the rhythm of waves that seem older than memory itself. In this moment, the bay's true lesson emerges. Beauty is not the sudden spark that dazzles the eyes but the slow, enduring rhythm that humbles the heart. Ha Long does not beg to be adored. It simply is, and its quiet persistence teaches you what it means to endure without the need for applause. There are places where the cliffs lean inward, as if to shelter you, where the wind is hushed and the water rests in still pools of jade. To enter these coves is to step into a temple without walls, where reverence arises not from ritual but from presence. You may find yourself lowering your voice, as though the bay asks for silence. Not silence of emptiness, but silence of fullness, the kind that fills every corner of your being until no words are needed. Far below, the sea continues its eternal labor. It wears at the stone, shaping arches, caves, and hollows, yet never destroying, only transforming. In this, too, is wisdom. Change is not always loss, it is often creation in disguise. The cliffs that stand so tall today will one day be something else entirely, yet still part of this vast symphony. To witness this is to accept the ebb and flow within yourself, the recognition that your life is shaped not by permanence but by transformation. Even the people who call this bay home embody that truth. The fishermen who rise before dawn, the children who play barefoot on wooden planks, and the women who prepare meals with herbs and fish fresh from the tide live in harmony with forces larger than themselves. They do not seek to master the sea, only to walk with it, to share in its rhythm. Their resilience is quiet, their joy unassuming, their presence a testament to humanity's ability to belong to a place without needing to possess it. And so, as you watch, a realization dawns. Ha Long is not about being conquered, consumed, or even fully understood. It is about being met, eye to eye, heart to heart, spirit to spirit. It is a relationship rather than a possession, a dialogue rather than a monologue. To journey here is not to take something away, but to leave something behind, a part of your own restless noise. Surrendered to the stillness of the bay, the sun begins its slow descent again, and the sky ignites with colors too vast for names. The water blazes gold, then deepens into crimson, before finally surrendering to indigo. Boats scatter across the horizon, their lanterns flickering like fireflies on a dark field. The cliffs, now in silhouette, stand like guardians of eternity. This is no ordinary sunset, a closing hymn, a reminder that endings can be as luminous as beginnings. Night takes the bay in its arms, and the stars scatter freely above. They reflect so perfectly upon the water that it feels like the boundary between heaven and earth has dissolved, leaving you suspended in infinity. In this fragile, infinite balance, it is here that the final gift of Ha Long reveals itself: freedom. Freedom from needing validation, freedom from the constant pull of noise, freedom to exist. To breathe in this night is to be reborn into stillness, to carry within you a peace that no storm can shake. And so the story ends, not with fanfare, but with release. Ha Long does not vanish when you depart. It lives on in the cadence of your breath, the clarity of your silence, and the vastness of your inner sea. You may leave its waters, but it will never leave you. Beauty like this is not something witnessed. It is something absorbed, something remembered, something carried forever.